Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to our 10th annual World Hijab Day celebration assembly as part of our International Women's Week. I would like to join you. I'd like you to join me in welcoming our guest, Mrs. Zahra Ali. She's born in Bangladesh, grew up in East London, where she attended university and is a mother of 3 children. She worked as a women's advocate for Bangladeshi women before moving to Bristol, where she worked in an Islamic school for a number of years and has been running classes for women and young girls in the local mosque. She is a trained counsellor, so we're really lucky to have her join us here this morning. I'm now going to hand over to Mrs. Ali to tell us a little bit more about hijab in Islam and what that means for Muslims before taking some questions from some of our students. Over to you, Mrs. Ali.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I start in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most kind. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm really grateful for you inviting me to do this. It's actually a great event and it's a great achievement for the school, and I hope it's successful for you, inshallah. As for hijab in Islam, it's something which is, as many of you may know, it's a part of the Islamic identity for Muslim women in particular. But hijab as in a way of dress which incorporates modesty and an aspect of decency and morality. This is not just for the women. It's for the men as well. There are certain rules and regulations that the men have to follow in terms of what is allowed to be seen publicly and so on. But as we know, the women's dress, it's something which is more visible, and that's why it's something which at times can be something that people misunderstand and has resulted in issues for different people in different countries. And that's why it's really important that you're taking part in this Hijab Solidarity Day, because as you may be aware, it's something which is problematic for some people, and it has led to all sorts of abuse of power and taking away the rights of people. But in Islam, it's a huge part of a Muslim woman's identity. It's something which has been legislated in the Quran, which is our holy book. And it's something which is also legislated by the Sunnah, which are the traditions of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And it is something which all of the women in the past, including the Prophet's wives, and even before then, we believe that people like Mary and the wives of the righteous people in the past, it's something which was to signify a sign of nobility. So that's the history, kind of hijab. So as I said, it's something which is a part of the Islamic culture and identity. It's been legislated in the sources of the Quran and the Sunnah. And it's something which is a tradition that has been known and understood through the ages. And every Muslim country accepts it. And there are regulations in different countries according to their style or their culture. And I hope that's enough of a brief for you to get a gist of what hijab means.
Thank you, Mrs. Ali. That's brilliant. Okay, I'm going to hand over to our students now who've taken the time to put together some questions which they'd like to put to you about your journey through hijab and some of your own reflections and experiences of wearing hijab. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Akira, when you're ready.
What does the hijab mean in your life?
What does the hijab mean in my life? So for me personally, it's something which I have a great attachment to. It's something which I've chosen for myself to wear when I was about 18, 19. My parents were not very strict about it. And it's something which from my own reading and my own research, I understood that it's a part of Islam, and it's something that I was drawn to. And many women will tell you that it gives you a sense of liberation because you don't feel like you're being judged for your looks, etc., but you're being judged for your intellect. So yeah, that's what it means for me.
We have another question. Have you ever faced Islamophobia because you wear the hijab? And if so, how have you dealt with this?
So I've been really lucky. I haven't had, a great deal of abuse or, racism or Islamophobia, at me. But when I was younger, I did get comments when I was living in London. Things like I've been called Bin Laden's wife or daughter or whatever, and other things where people have mocked. But I've always tried to deal with it almost in a laughing way. I've tried to, go approach the people and say, do you really understand what you're saying? What does that exactly mean? And then most of my experiences have been that when I've challenged people in that way, they've realized that they've been a bit foolish and they feel a bit sheepish about it. There was once actually, which was quite scary, where when my children were little and I was walking, crossing a road, and a man who was driving past on a lorry or a truck or something, he threw a can towards me. That's probably the worst I've had. That was quite scary, where because I had the children with me, and I was a bit worried or scared that something would fall on them, and that made me quite angry and upset, and it just seemed really heartless. Could he not see that I was with my small children? They were like babies. One was in a pushchair. So you can see that sometimes people just kind of lose all sense and they don't know what they're doing, and it's a shame.
Do you have any advice for students that are facing Islamophobia?
I think it happens on different levels, yeah. Like, so it can happen where, like that, very overtly, somebody might say something to you or do something to you, or people around you. It might not be directed at you, it might be your friends or your mom or your dad or anyone you're walking with or anywhere. So there's overt types of Islamophobia and racism, and then there's some kind of covert things where sometimes people misjudge you. I've had instances where people come up and they start talking really slowly because they think you're a foreigner and you don't understand English, and all sorts of things. So, I mean, what I would say is that at the end of the day, our beliefs, whatever our beliefs are, and if you believe in something and you know it to be the best thing for you and the most correct thing, then Allah says in the Quran that sometimes you will be tested because of your beliefs and because of your stance. And I would urge all Muslims, especially the young ones, to look at the example of our noble Prophet, peace be upon him. Now, when he, we know the stories when he started calling people to the truth, he was abused. People threw rubbish at him and at his family, and some of the early Muslims were tortured, etc. This is what happens sometimes when people don't like what you've got to say. Now, if you know that what you are standing for and what you believe in is the right thing for you, and it's a choice that you've made, then you within yourself have strength, have courage, and never feel alone. Never feel that you're the only one. There's billions of Muslims all over the world, and everyone. At the end of the day, don't let it affect you to the point where it's affecting your mental health or getting you down. Realize that this is just a part of life. Now, if it wasn't about your Islamic belief, it would be the color of your skin. People might bully you about what size you are, what you do, etc. This is, unfortunately, this is part of life. And I wish that we could protect our young people from such things, but it's not the case. So I would say be strong. Don't let it affect you. Don't let it get you down. And if it does affect you, get advice from your teachers or your friends or from your family. And don't let it be the thing that makes you feel as if, like, it's not everybody. That's the thing to remember. There's plenty of people who are very understanding, who don't hate you because of these things. There's plenty of people who show support. The other day I met a lady. She's really sweet, and she said to me, you look really nice, and I like your your thing that she says. And I said, you mean my hijab? She said, yes, I think it looks really nice. And I said, oh, that's quite refreshing, because we're always under attack. And her and her husband were like, oh, no, this is just, minority. These are these people who don't understand. And that was quite nice. It's really nice to have those experiences as well. And I'm sure you will, if we walk with pride and we have a smile on our face and we say hello and we're polite, I don't think majority of people will have any issue with you. There are the odd people who will always have a problem no matter what. But they're the minority and we should ignore them.
We have another question for you. What challenges are there living as a Muslim in a non-Muslim country?
We're actually very fortunate to live in England. Very, very fortunate, because I think we enjoy a lot of rights, a lot of privileges, and generally speaking, there's a lot of protection for us. But the challenges come at certain times, obviously, and the main thing is, I think, people misunderstand what Islam really is, and they see certain people behave in certain ways in different countries, or etc., and they think that is the norm. And that's a challenge, because being tarnished with the same brush, or being identified as all crazy or terrorists or whatever, and that's one challenge. And there are other things that sometimes maybe, like in the type of things that you can get involved in. So as Muslims, we don't drink alcohol, we don't eat pork, and we're not supposed to even be in a place where alcohol is served, and we don't encourage free mixing between the sexes. So all of these things sometimes can be a bit of a challenge. So for example, maybe certain social gatherings you can't attend, and so on. So those things can be quite challenging, but in my experience, I think when you explain it to people and you do it with wisdom, and you explain the reasons why, and that means that you have to have knowledge as well, because that's the other challenge, that sometimes there are lots of Muslims who don't understand Islam properly, and they say things which are incorrect, and that gives the wrong message as well. So these things can be challenging, and apart from that, I don't think it's actually, there may be in other Western countries where things can be difficult when people are trying to ban the hijab or ban religious gatherings, etc. But here, so far we've been quite fortunate, and hopefully it stays like that.
Thank you. And just before you girls take the last three questions, can I just remind you we have a couple of minutes left. So there's fascinating conversation going on here, but if we can round up in the next sort of 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ali.
What would you want to see in a school that has many Islamic students?
That's a really good question. Yeah, great question to ask. So I know that lots of schools have an inclusivity, inclusive ideas about inclusivity, and they even have policies around that. So what I would really love to see in a lot of schools is an attempt, an active attempt, not just something which we just say, or it's just written as a statement in a policy or a paper, but something which schools are actively trying to recognize the importance and the relevance of having and allowing people of whatever faith, if they want to be Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Jew, whatever, understanding that gives a lot of value to the school, because a pupil who is practicing their religion and trying to establish the religion in their life would hopefully be somebody who is very socially conscious, and has an idea of how to make the school harmonious and a better place, and hopefully they're a better student. They treat their teachers well, with respect and regard. So in that sense, valuing those pupils and their desire to follow their religion, and that is shown by accepting things like the hijab, or if some girls want to wear the abaya, or allowing the boys to grow their beards, and allowing a place to pray, and allowing a time to pray within, giving enough time, and as well, perhaps things like making things easier in Ramadan, and so on. So just really embracing those students and making them feel accepted, and trying to accommodate as much as possible. That's what I would like to see. In Bristol, we have a lot of schools with majority of Muslim pupils, and I think it serves the school well. And I hope, it's really good to see what your school is doing, and I hope that they will be a beacon for other schools in Bristol to be able to do something similar.
Is there one thing you'd like all students to know about wearing hijab?
I would. It's a funny thing, actually. You don't have to worry about brushing your hair for too long. That's one thing. But what I'd like all students to know is that it's a garment of honor. This is something which Allah talks about in the Quran. Is something which is given great status and a position, and it means that people need to behave and conduct themselves in a certain way. So I would expect girls who wear hijab to, be respectful of their teachers and carry themselves with a certain degree of, nobility. Doesn't mean that they have to be, wallflowers or anything, but just to know that it means it's not just a piece of cloth. Yeah, it's something which is beloved to Allah and His messengers, and if you carry it with that, then people will respect you. And then I would like other Muslim, other people who don't wear hijab to understand that those who have chosen to, it's not easy, and to make it easy for them and to help them and to encourage each other in all types of goodness.
What hijab wearing role models do you look up to?
Yeah, this is another good question. There's a few people that I really, really look up to. There's a lot of people in my personal life, like my family members, my mother, and other people. But in terms of people you might know about or have seen in the public eye, Yvonne Ridley is a great role model. She is a very outspoken journalist. She doesn't hold back her views, and her whole experience has been very interesting. You can look up what happened to her. Another lady is somebody called Aisha Hamdan. She's in America. She's a Muslim psychologist, and she's tremendous because I've studied a little bit of psychology in my counseling. I found her a great inspiration. There's also someone you might all have heard of, Ilham Omar. She's the politician in America. I think what she's doing, and how she's doing it with, keeping her hijab and etc. That's a great source of inspiration for all of us. And finally, Nadia Hussain, I think you all know from Bake Off. She's actually done a lot to raise understanding and awareness for Muslims in this country.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ali. It's been great having you here. Thank you for your reflections on hijab. Thank you to all of our students for taking part. Just to remind you, Mrs. Ali will be joining us at lunchtime today to deliver a seminar. You're welcome to come along. If you'd like to attend, please make sure you get a token from reception and go to the room that's allocated on the token or that you've been advised through tutor time. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.